Well, let's move on to our next topic. Before we do, I'll remind everybody, whatsonsports.com is the website. You can go over there today and you can check out our $2 Sports Club. We're going to go on to our final topic of the day. It's the free agency. And Lance has been doing a great little thing over there on the website on whatsonsports.com. He's been writing about the top free agents for every position around the NFL. And today, Lance is going to be talking about the top 5 free agent safeties, and I'm excited to hear your take on this one.
Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. So for me, the top free agent safety coming into the 2021 season has to be Justin Simmons. So formerly of the Denver Broncos, so he hasn't been signed yet by any team. So despite being relatively obscure for most NFL fans, he became one of the best safeties in the league. So he had a great 2020 season. He had 5 interceptions to go with 77 solo tackles. And more likely, teams will compete for his services. However, the concern is he commands a high price tag because he earned $11.4 million last season. And there's no indication of him taking less than that money. So all indications are still leading for the Broncos re-signing him, but the question is for how long? But until that happens, any team can swoop up Justin Simmons.
Safety is one of the most important positions in football right now.
Yep.
It's not talked about enough because so many people are in 3 safety looks. You need to have a deep position of safety. You need to have a couple guys that can play center field. You need to have a couple guys that can drop into the box and have that linebacker mentality while still having that safety ability. A guy like Justin Simmons is going to command a lot of money on the open market. When you look at the way they play defense in today's NFL, a guy like Justin Simmons has got a tremendous amount of value. I just don't see him being the guy who's going to get $11 million in this economy. Could be wrong. J.J. Watt just got 13 or 14, $15 million.
Yeah.
So apparently some teams are not afraid to spend over the next couple of years. Let's see what happens with Simmons. Who else you got on the list?
Yeah. Okay, so second on the list, so another safety with a high price tag is Anthony Harris, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. So he had a pretty good season, not the best of seasons, but he was still okay when it comes to man and zone coverages in 2020 for the Vikings. And even though he is already 30 years old, he hasn't shown any signs that he's slowing down soon. So he still has that burst. He still has that quickness that made him an interesting prospect when he was still a rookie or a draftee. But again, just like Justin Simmons, he earned $11 million last season. So that would be a hefty price to pay for any team, including the Vikings, to get his services for 2021.
You think about how much money these guys make. I mean, guys making like $700,000 a game. I mean, every game that they play, they're making $700,000. If he misses a game, he's still making $700,000 or $800,000. It's absolutely ridiculous. You look at some of these really high price guys, and you have to wonder, when does the bubble break? When does the bubble really snap? You know, I spent a lot of time on a website called Over the Cap. It's overthecap.com. You can go there and you can look at everybody's salary cap situation. You can look at who the highest paid players are. And if you look at it, it's very much a weird culture where like the top guys make a lot of money and the other guys just kind of like they do okay. But there's so much money in the top. The top 6 or 7 guys make all the money on the team, and then you go down. So I think you have to look at a guy, when you look at some of these decisions, and you have to say to yourself, is this guy one of my 7 best players? Because I'm going to give him $10 million next year or $11 million. Is he one of the 7 best players? And if he's honestly not one of your 7 best players or one of your 6 best players, you just cannot pay him that kind of money. So I don't know. That's a lot of money for a safety, brother. That's a lot of money. Who else you got on the list? Are they all paid like this?
No, apparently not. So we have finished the 2 safeties with the highest price tag. So we come now to the safeties, free agent safeties at that with more budget-friendly price tags, that is. So number 3 on the list, Marcus Williams, formerly of the New Orleans Saints. So Pro Football Focus has him as the highest ranked safety last season in terms of run defense and tackling. So he's just 25 years old, and his
Well,
style of play is that he's a reckless abandon to speak of. So he's not afraid to throw his body just to get a tackle or to just disrupt
hmm,
plays. So he has that unafraid mentality to be on the field. But the problem with that is because he's not afraid to take gambles, that he gets burned at times with big gains. So
hmm.
that's the biggest concern of his game, that he tends to be burned with a bit throw long passes because
Yeah,
he
play
was
action.
not properly placed, especially in play action or all sorts of coverages. So um, Williams just earned like a 1.6 million last season.
Yeah, rookie
1.56 to
contract.
be exact for the Saints. And again, repeating the Saints salary cap situation. So any team can just easily come in and get his services, especially for those teams with enormous salary caps.
You look at a guy like this, though, and this is what I was talking about before, about how I think safeties now are being split into two separate categories. And one category is the guy who can play the deep middle, who can
Yep.
cover the slot. These are
Yeah, the single high.
cover
Yeah.
safeties. These are cover safeties. And then there's another new generation of safeties that's coming out that's almost like a safety linebacker hybrid.
Mhm.
And obviously, you need the skill set for that, but you need exactly what you're talking about, which is the mentality. Most safeties don't mind tackling. They don't want to tackle, and there's a big difference. I don't mind green beans. I don't mind spinach. I don't want it. I don't sit around and crave it. I'd rather eat a hamburger or a plate of pasta or some ice cream, but I don't mind doing it. When you find somebody that truly enjoys doing something, they're better at it. So the people who are the guys who aren't afraid to get down into the box and really want contact, really want to go into that hole, really want to fit the hole and really fit that run gap and really take on a guy like a Travis Henry, head on. Those are the guys that are going to play those box safeties, and there is value for them
Yep.
in the right system. The problem is when you try to rotate them out of that box safety position and move them into the backfield and tell them, listen, you're going to cover this half of the field or this third of the field or even deep center. Those guys just don't play very well. So somebody will sign this guy. He just came off the rookie contract. I think his expectations will be a little more centered. And I would bet that he's probably one of the first safeties to be signed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Marcus Williams showed versatility on the field in 2020. More importantly, he is a physical force to reckon with on
Yeah.
defense. And who I cannot think of any team that wouldn't like that. So any team that has the money to spare should be calling the GM of New Orleans and at least inquire for his services if he's available.
100%. Who else you got? You got two more.
Okay. Okay, two more. So you have spoken about box safety. So we have another box safety who I think is one of the top 5 free agent safeties, and that is John Johnson, of formerly of the Los Angeles Rams. So
Hmm.
he was one of the more effective box safeties, in my opinion, in the NFL last season, and he has proven that by leading the Rams in tackles with 105 just in 2020.
Yeah.
So he is versatile enough to cover tight ends and even running backs in those slot or intermediate routes, especially when they are flexed out. So Johnson is also adept in playing the single high safety role, but there's a room for improvement of him in terms of awareness or better awareness when the Rams or his next team is playing man coverage. So that's his weak point. So he's not that good when it comes to man coverages, especially in reading the rest of the field. But John Johnson just earned like 814,000 last season. So and with the way he played last season in 2020, he is in for breaking the bank in 2021. So any team would like to pay for his services that do not like to pay the likes of the Simmons and the Harris can inquire about John Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson's a really flexible guy. Funny aside story, really quick. My father's best friend growing up was named John Johnson, which I always thought was when I was a kid was a really cool name because his name was John Johnson. But anyway, Johnson's actually a really interesting guy because of the fact that he does have position flexibility. He's not a big safety. He's only 205 pounds, so he's not a big safety. So the Rams did employ him a lot. And the Rams play a lot of cover too. So he did have half the field some of the time and actually played pretty well for them. But I think he's most at home up close to the line. That seems to be where he seems to really like thrive, up close to the line where he can actually hit people. So again, if you're looking for that box safety, this is a guy that you might be able to sign. I don't know the value of anybody anymore because of this new COVID age with what's going on with people's finances. So I don't know where a guy like this fits in. Is he a $5 million guy? Is he a $7 million guy? Is he a $3 million guy? I'm so anxious to see how free agency opens up and see how people are going to spend. The worst teams are going to spend the most because the worst teams tend to have the most cap space as well, because the worst teams usually can't manage their own cap situation. So they end up with like a lot of space. I'd rather have more space than less. And, I'm diverging into a different topic. But anyway, let me hear your last guy.
Okay, so last guy. So this guy benefited from one of his better teammates being traded to another team. So I'm referring to Marcus Maye, so formerly of the New York Jets. So he just burst into the scene once Jamal Adams went to the Seattle Seahawks. So just his 2020 numbers are astonishing. So he had 88 tackles, 4 of which are tackles for loss, and 11 passes defended. So he was just all over the field, Marcus Maye. And he also added that up with 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles, not to mention 2 quarterback hits as well. So he really emerged as one of the top players in that secondary for the Jets. And he earned just 1.6 million in 2020. And all indications are leading to him signing a long-term contract with the Jets, especially John. His agent criticized the Jets for not prioritizing him as a signee this free agency. So his agent tweeted that his client is not taken care of by the organization.
Yeah.
So that could force the organization to either franchise tag him or put him in a long-term contract.
Well, I think if you're looking at the Jets get rid of Adams, knowing that they've got this kid who can step in and take his place. Good move by the Jets. The Jets get rid of a guy that doesn't want to be there. They get a first-round draft choice in return. I think they got 2 actually, if memory serves me right. But now they got to sign this guy. You have cap space. This is a homegrown product. You've got to keep Marcus Maye in the building. I don't think Marcus Maye leaves, but I did read something where his shots were fired. His agent had said something like pretty demeaning about the organization, which is very weird for an agent to come out and take that type of approach in public like that. But I'm not sure that's going to do him any favors with the organization. But I think the Jets have to keep this guy. Now, franchise him. What's the franchise tag for a safety? 12 million, 14, 15 million dollars? I don't think that's the play. I think the play is you have to step up to the plate and say, look, you made almost $2 million last year. We're willing to pay you 8. We'll do a 3-year deal, $24 million. This will get us out of this COVID situation. You'll make $24 million over the next 3 years, and you'll still be young enough to sign another contract either with us or with somebody else. I think that's the play that I come back to his agent with. And if he won't take that, you got to make sure you're not held hostage by your own free agents. I think that's an important aspect of re-signing your own players.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And given the Jets' enormous cap space, more likely that they'll sign this guy if they are really intent in rebuilding the team. I mean, they have Quinnen Williams, who is also an interesting piece in their defense. So at least they have that linebacker in tow, and they have one good secondary player in Marcus Maye. So that could be a good foundation for where they would like to be 3 or 4 seasons from now. So it all boils down to having Marcus Maye as a last line of defense in New York, because all of the other teams will just try to continually get them burned. And it's nice to have someone like a Marcus Maye in that last part of the defense
I agree.
for the Jets.
I couldn't agree anymore.